Excellent. So how have you experienced digital discipleship in the lives of others? Any more stories?
When I first came in as the online campus pastor at the Valley Troy, that was one of the tasks we had. What is everything we do in the in-person realm, and how can we, if we should, mimic it in the digital? And one of them was serving and coming up and being creative with the ways in which people can serve. And people who at that time felt like they were stuck at home but wanted to be a part of their church, it gave them a place to serve. And I will say, all of them, although they've returned in person, have continued to serve in the digital because that's how much it mattered to them. They were connecting with people in a new way. And it's not just greeting, right? They're praying for them. They are answering questions that they have them. We're pointing them to different groups that maybe meet in the community if they're not ready to come in. And what I have noticed is that if they've been watching us in the digital realm, by the time they show up in person, they're in. It's their church.
They made a decision.
Yes. And that's exciting. That's a really exciting turn for the life of the church.
Yeah. What an interesting thing, because before you think people would come and try out church for a week or two. Now they're coming in to lean in.
Yes.
Right? They've already done that pre-decision before they even enter their doors. So really important, I think, just in terms of just a quick side note, that we don't have two different experiences for people, that we just make sure it's like one thing, because people will come in and that they experience something very different in person or reverse in online. It doesn't kind of serve people in the end who are now kind of get a bait and switch. They're promised one thing digitally and now experience something completely different of a culture or whatever in person. It's good. Anybody else, other things that you've seen that's experienced in the lives of others? Maybe a personal story even. Does anyone have a personal story of somebody's life, with anonymity, of course, where they maybe had life experience or change or transformation or something happened in their life via digital?
Well, I had a student who came into my program who literally wanted to give up their ordination. They were depressed. They figured they were never going to be able to serve. And they would come in and cry nearly every time. And we just, and these are people from Australia all the way to the East Coast. So we have people from all around the world. And everybody just loved on her. And now she actually is a senior pastor of a church in the Los Angeles area.
So just the ability to connect and how that just helped transform a life. That's awesome. Anybody else? Thank you.
I have a friend that I've made online, and she was struggling with her experience with the in-person church. She had some difficult experiences, and she had stepped away from the church and was struggling to try new churches. And she lived far away from me. And she lived near a pastor who had been speaking into my life, who had been mentoring me. And I was able to go visit her, and I was able to go with her to that pastor's church. And while we sat there in his service, it was a beautiful time for both of us, because he encouraged me. He had already been encouraging me online, but he encouraged me in person. But then also to be in this moment with her where she feels safe to worship and safe to receive the word and to hear from Jesus, and to see the way that healed her heart was just an absolute privilege.
That's awesome. You're a great story.
Yeah.
Anybody else have another story of maybe somebody's life being transformed through digital discipleship means? I know when I was during the pandemic, we had a young lady and her family start kind of attending digitally, and she probably for like 2 months really struggling with her faith, and yet and kind of afraid to go to church for lots of different reasons, both some abuse situations she's experienced and some challenging situations through some previous church leadership experiences. But it was a healing moment where she had a little bit of digital distance to be able to try things without all of the same baggage that in person can have at times. And it really was a means of healing grace for her as she was able to engage in church in a way that was accessible, in a way that was safe, and then eventually came to come in person and became a part of the community, in the in-person community, but without that would never have made the leap. So for them, that was just a hurdle they were able to get over from the challenges of being hurt or abused, or even some social anxiety issues. But anybody else, other stories that maybe of people that you know that digitally, their kind of transformational experience that happened?
This is a really great story. A friend of mine she's ordained, but she went, I think, for 10 years, never got invited to lead anywhere. And I told her, if you're called to preach, just go preach. And again, I've met her, I met her in person one time. She's on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. And I said, preach from your Facebook page. And she's like, what if I get in trouble? Like, she was like super concerned about some sort of, structure. And then she said that she was the chaplain of her local district's campground. And she had charge of their Facebook page. So she said, I can actually do it from there. And so she drove, I believe it was 2 hours one way every Sunday, set up all of her gear and preached from that Facebook page. And within 6 months, she became the senior pastor of a church, because not only did she preach to whatever campers happened to be there, sometimes there was 3, sometimes there were more, but she was able to go online and actually do what God had called her to do. And then eventually she was actually called to a place. Yeah, it's real cool.
We're really fortunate to be a part of a denomination that affirms women's call to ministry. And but I have been able to see women who are from other experiences who haven't had that affirmed in their life, and they have found that they have a place to speak into other people's lives and to preach the good news in a way that is just affirming to them that they have this desire to tell other people about Jesus, and now they have the availability to do it.
That's awesome. That's good. Anybody else? Thank you. Other stories of lives changed online?
I never get tired of hearing, I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit promises to give us the word.
Yeah.
And now we have this platform that when the word comes,
so good,
you can share it with people. And it never gets old when somebody pops on or sends you a private message and says, oh, man, I was praying today and I needed that word. And that's the God we serve, right?
Yeah.
The God who makes himself known to people no matter where. And now it doesn't have to be relegated, again, as we've been saying, to a location. That part just doesn't get old for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, that's very good. Like I always say that that there's power in proximity, and you need to be in proximity for love's possibility. And there's something about the digital bridge that allows that in a different way that gets us proximity to people who are living a huge part of their lives, whether people like it or not. They're living a huge chunk of their lives online, and that possibility in proximity to share the love of Christ is not something we should just ignore, because it does exist, and it's something I think the Lord's calling us to.
I have a really good example of that. I had 2 students, one from Alaska and one from Colorado, that were in the program together. One's a retired evangelist and the other one's a senior pastor. And through that relationship, she actually was called to go do a weeks-long event at his church. And they would have never even known each other had it not been for that opportunity.
That's awesome. Yeah. So great. Fantastic. Anyways, yes.
In my experience with young people, I just realized that there are questions teenagers will ask you via text about faith that they will not ask you in person.
Yeah.
And so, I think and sometimes they're really hard theological questions. And so I remember I posted something on my Instagram story. I cannot remember what it is. And about an hour later, I had a student text me and went, if God is good, why does God let bad things happen? I'm like, hi. Let's meet for coffee and chat about this. That initial conversation would have never happened if, one, we didn't follow each other on social media, or if this student didn't have access to my phone number. And so I just think about those instances. I can think back of my last at least 3 years in ministry with students, and we ask questions like, hey, I want to learn more about baptism, or you said this during your message, I don't quite understand it, or hey, our pastor said the word sanctification today. I don't know if I spelt it right, but what does that mean? And so just the conversations that you just get to initiate through that is just amazing, I think, that otherwise I don't think would have ever happened.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris. Let me change gears a little bit, because we've talked about all the possibilities of digital discipleship, but the reality is there's lots of challenges. Like, it poses a whole lot of, as any new form or any form of ministry does. So what would be some of the challenges that you've experienced with digital discipleship? And then maybe the most interesting thing, how did you overcome them, or how are you trying to overcome them?
I think that the hardest thing for me is just the Wi-Fi connection.
Okay.
Because it comes and goes, and no matter how close I can be to whatever, it can say I have 3 bars, and then it says you're unstable. I'm like, okay, I'm unstable today.
That's all.
And so really, there's nothing at that moment that I can do about that. But one of the things that I also can do is switch from my phone if I need to, because sometimes I can use the airwaves rather than the Wi-Fi to be able to get a stronger signal. So it's just kind of trying to be creative. Yeah.
Well, it reminds me too, I think of oftentimes we have a tendency to think of digital as being equal for everybody. Like it's as everyone can access. We use that language all the time. We've used it here, and it's sometimes the language we use. It is not true. Not everyone has equal access to the internet or devices, and sometimes it's a certain element of the socioeconomic factors that allow people in or push them out, and we can sometimes ignore that, but it is a challenge that we need to recognize as we kind of enter into this digital discipleship, because not everyone has equal access, as you have a tendency to think about it when it comes to online. Anybody else other challenges?
Yeah, I think because our phones are with us almost always,
Sure.
It's so easy to be like, oh, it's 9 p.m. I'm doing ministry. I'm doing the work of ministry, or and so for me personally, what I've done is I just set time boundaries for myself. And so I will not text people back after a certain time in the night, unless if it's a dire emergency. But if it's not, I won't, because that's just a boundary that I need for myself. Another boundary that I have is, teenagers use Snapchat a lot, and they love to use it to communicate. And so one of the boundaries I've had with my teenagers is I will add you on Be Real, I will add you on Instagram, I will add you on Facebook, but I will not add you on Snapchat. And those are just what I've learned is I need boundaries for myself that protect me, protect my students, but also protect my time and my energy. And that just means that sometimes, hey, like you asked me a really good theological question, but I will text you back in the morning. And so but it's hard to be like, oh, I really want to answer this question because this is a good question and you're thinking about it. But a good boundary for me is, but I have to wait because I need to protect my time and my energy as well.
It's fascinating that it's like all things that were one side of it is the good thing, and it's like both sides of the coin. The other sides of it is a challenge. So the beauty of online is there's no boundaries. You can connect anybody. The downside is there's no boundaries. So it can drain you at all hours of the night if you're not careful with it, right? Yeah. Other challenges?
I found that my vision and my desire outpaces some of the people around me.
Okay. Yeah.
And so there are people who are ready for this, who are ready to go and ready to reach people that way. And there are people who are hesitant about it. There are people who are opposed to it. And as, it's something I'm really passionate about and excited about. And there are some people who are just starting to kind of lean into it. And I would like to be 100 miles down the road, but there are other people just starting the journey. And so it has been a challenge for me. It's something that I'm working on and growing in, to walk with the people who are leaning into it. And that when you are working with a local church and you're wanting to start something, lean more into digital discipleship or lean more into online ministry, you may get feedback like that, or you may have people who are just at different levels and they have different vision or different ideas, and you've got to help them work together and move along and start to learn things that you may have already learned because you're excited about it, or help them see the vision when they're just sort of thinking, oh, this could work. So just reaching people who are not quite there yet has been a challenge for me. One thing that I learned when I was, before I worked for the church, I was in early childhood education. And one of the things that they taught us to do was to celebrate approximation. So I might want to be 100 miles down the road. I can't wait to celebrate until they get down 100 miles down the road with me. I need to celebrate each step and celebrate alongside them as they journey that way.
That's good. I mean, that's even a good reminder for anybody who's listening to this conversation that for some people, this is just going to be a reminder of all the things they know, and it'll maybe be encouragement. For others, be like, oh, that gave me some tools to move that along. But there's probably a good check of people. I'm assuming you're watching this, you're somebody interested. That the best thing you can do is actually just to encourage those in your church that are passionate about doing it. Just saying, oh, I can see the possibility of this. I can see what's happening in some other contexts, and just to be a cheerleader to help those who are trying to press in and serve. And sometimes we do that with critique. But having people who can see the potential in us, even if they're not doing it themselves, is a huge gift for practitioners. Yeah. Anybody else? Other kind of challenges you see and ways you've overcome them?
One of the challenges I can think of is, well, I don't know what to post.
Okay.
Like,
okay. Yeah.
Like what
the content challenge?
What content?
Yeah.
Is it going to be? I'm part of the oldest of Gen Zs, and so even
okay.
So even as I minister,
old man Chris over here.
well, even as I minister to
Share with us your.
So as part of like the oldest Gen Z, even ministering to younger Gen Zs, I'm always just like, there's like, is this content going to be something they want to engage with?
Yeah.
Is it going to be interesting? Is it going to communicate what I want to communicate effectively and in the right tone? And so what I've learned is that sometimes I'll ask other people, what do you think about this? Or sometimes I'll send, like, I'll draft the post, I'll screenshot it, or I'll send the video to even some of our young people before I post it, and I'll say, hey, when this comes on your feed, what will you think? And that kind of just gives me the like a good feedback of like, sometimes they'll be like, Chris, no, don't do that. So they'll be like, oh, that's really funny, that's really fun, just do it. And so having just that other people to be able to filter content and information and post through is always helpful.
That's good.
Which is one of the challenges I face, because when you start getting into that digital realm, it's easy to get sucked into wanting the numbers.
Yeah.
And getting sucked into it. Well, if you post at this time, and if you post at this time, and it's rigorous if you really do it the way that a lot of those platforms want you to do it in order to gain more followers. And so tempering that tension between, yes, of course, we want to reach more people.
Yeah.
But we need boundaries and we need appropriate rhythms. And so leaning into discernment. How do I discern what I'm supposed to do next? Having those safeguards around there. And then I just go back to the fact that Jesus went after one. And so if this is about one and he's saying post this, then I have to let go of it only got 10 views.
That's good work. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Those 10 people needed that word. But that was a hard tension to live in the beginning, because we were actually launching a platform that they had not had before. They had no digital presence, the church I was working with. And you want to succeed. You want to be successful.
Yeah.
And at that point, success was numbers.
Yeah.
But discipleship isn't about numbers.
Yeah.
There's such greater depth when we're talking about discipleship. So what does it look like to lead one at a time rather than, I'm glad thousands of people came.
Yeah.
But if they only drove by for 3 seconds, then they didn't really come.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's that struggle of comparison. So I might look at another church that has a larger following online and think, what am I missing? And it's not, it can be really discouraging. And you think, well, one struggle is if your church doesn't have people who have those skills yet. So you can think something's wrong with my people, something's wrong with me, something's wrong with my platform. And instead of looking at what you do have available to you and leaning in, you focus on what you wish that you had and what is out of reach, instead of taking what you already have and leaning in on the simple thing, the thing you already can do well.
That's good.
And that goes to the technology piece. We didn't have all that technology that a lot of those churches, that the lights and the sound and all of those things. And then you realize, oh, the phone in my pocket actually does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And it will get the message across just the same. And when you're authentic and genuine to who you are and what you're talking
Key
about,
values,
nobody really cares about all of those other things at the end of the day.
Yeah, all those same things are like we can make the same arguments of like the mega church and the smaller church. The same is the case with what kind of production value you're having, and all of which has value in the kingdom. So no, that's good. I always say in person church, we really kind of got sucked into like nickels and noses, right? We count how much money comes in, how many people. Like pastors are really bad for that. I was one for 25 years. You get this, but if nothing else, that is the gateway drug of counting online.
Yes.
Because like you can count everything, every view for how long. It's really depressing when you go watch your sermon. If you're posting it, you can see where people just leave.
Yes.
Like that's the challenge of like how do you navigate that? And I think that's just such a good word. Like what do you recognize is important? Is it trying to like reach the masses or reach the one, and being faithful and being authentic, I think is more important than ever digitally as it has always been online. It's good.